we have a possible tournament decider as Ireland hosts France at the Aviva Stadium. My name is Mark. Let's talk rugby. This really is the big game this weekend. You look at it not just in terms of, the championship itself, but for the last few years, I think it's very hard to argue against the fact that Ireland and France have been the best two, teams in the Northern Hemisphere over the last maybe 4 or 5 years or so. Other than occasional, blips on their part, but generally, I think overall you say, it's probably the top two teams in the Northern Hemisphere, the top two teams in the Six Nations coming into this round of games, and it feels like it could go either way, honestly. But let's talk about just the details of the game. So it's Ireland versus France. It's on Saturday, 8th of March. It's at the Aviva Stadium. 2:15 kickoff. You can watch it on RTE if you're watching in Ireland. Last year was France 17, Ireland 38. And then in 2023, the last time they played in Dublin, Ireland 32, France 19. The odds are Ireland 7-6 on, France 6-5, and the draw is 25-1. So very close, even with the bookies there. So what we're going to do in this is we're going to have a look at the two teams. First, quickly go down through the teams, then talk about what changes have been made to those teams, and how certain players might affect the outcome of the game. And then we're going to we'll have a look at some stats as well for the game. So let's pull up the teams. We're going to start with the Ireland team. We'll pull it up here. Let me find it here first. Okay, there we go. Okay, so Ireland's team, starting with the front row: Andrew Porter, Dan Sheehan, Finlay Bealham. Second row: Joe McCarthy and Tyke Byrne. The back row: Peter O'Mahony, Josh van der Fleer and Caelan Doris. Halfbacks: James Gibson Park and Sam Prendergast. The left wing then: James Lowe. Centres: Bunya Key and Robbie Henshaw. Right wing: Jamie Osborne, and fullback is Hugo Keenan. Then on the bench we have Rob Herring, Keane Healy, Thomas Clarkson, James Ryan, Jack Conan, Ryan Baird, Conor Murray and Jack Crowley. Okay, so let's run down through the French team. So front row: Jean-Baptiste Gros, Pito Mauvaka and Uni Antonio. Second row is Thibaut Flamand and Michael Guillard. The back row then: Francois Cross, Paul Baudin and Gregory Aldrit. The halfbacks: Anton Dupont and Romain Ntamak. Left wing: Louis Bielbiari. The centres: Yoram Mofana and Pierre-Louis Baresi. Right wing: Damien Panot. And the fullback is Tomo Ramos. Okay, on the bench then you got Julian Marchand, Cyril Bay, Dorian Aldaherdi, Emmanuel Miafu, Hugo Aradu, Oscar Jegu, Anthony Jalonche and Maxime Lucu. Okay, so two very exciting teams. Now let's have a look at the Irish team in a little bit more detail. So first of all, let's talk about changes to the team. So there's a few changes, given that they made changes for the Welsh games, a lot of those kind of being reversed, players coming back from injury, etc. So first up, Bealham back into the front row with Clarkson going down to the bench, so that was an expected change. Furlong, still out injured, and honestly, I'm just thinking that he may not even make an appearance at this stage in this Six Nations. You'd wonder, would you really risk him in the last game against Italy? I think depending on what happens in this game, they might just say, listen, come over to Rome with us, but you're not going to be involved. Because since the first round, they've been like, oh yeah, he's not too far away. But we've seen Ireland do this before. But yeah, so I don't think we're not going to see Furlong in this one. Don't think we're going to see him the rest of the tournament. Then Caelan Doris back from injury, back in at 8. And that means that Jack Conan drops to the bench, where I think he's actually a better option. Bundy Aki then returning at 12, with Henshaw moving to 13, and Gary Ringrose out suspended. And if you watch my preview of the entire round, I'm livid about the fact that Ireland pulled a fast one by reducing Ringrose's suspension, or not reducing it. That's the wrong, but basically by including Leinster versus Cardiff as one of the games that you would miss, so that he's back a game earlier than I believe he should have been. Because I don't think there's any way he was getting picked for Leinster against Cardiff. So I'm not happy with that. I don't think it's not the right thing to do, honestly. So that's my opinion on that. Then Jamie Osborne moves from fullback to right wing, and he's in place of Mac Hansen. So Mac Hansen out injured. Looking at that, I would have thought the next person to come through would be Calvin Nash. He did so well. When Hansen was out for a while with injury, Nash really proved himself there. But he's got rib injury as well, and that's probably why Osborne is actually preferred in this one. So I don't think it's like a snub to Nash. I think it's just injury concern for Nash in that case. Then Hugo Keenan returns at full back. Then on the bench, Rob Herring, Keane Healy and Ryan Baird all come onto that bench, and Ireland have a 6-2 split compared, we'll talk about France in a minute, but 6-2 split for Ireland. And looking at their front row, pretty much as expected. I think with Dan Sheehan there, with no Kelleher still out injured, you probably think he's going to have to play a lot of the game. Like maybe Herring's going to get the last 10 minutes, but Herring, the one thing he gives you is decent set piece, especially compared to Sheehan and Kelleher, and obviously Sheehan gives you a lot around the park. But a decent front row. The big thing for Ireland is going to be Porter scrummaging. He's gone well in some of the games. He struggled against Ireland scrum struggled against the Welsh a little bit too much, and they really have to get things right, I think, for this game against France. Then the second row, you got Joe McCarthy and Ty Byrne there. Could see maybe Byrne. It depends, right? Because you got Ryan Baird on the bench. I was thinking you might see Byrne moving into 6 when James Ryan comes on, but it depends when Ryan Baird is going to come on, because you might see Ryan and Baird maybe actually come on for possibly McCarthy, because he came into the tournament injured, and Baird coming on for Omani. That probably is what will happen. We do have the option of Byrne moving into that back row as well. Then the back row, you got Peter O'Mahony there, one of 3 players himself, Keane Healy and Conor Murray, both coming from the bench, making their last appearances in Ireland shirt in Dublin. They've all announced that they will retire from Test, from the Test arena at the end of the Six Nations. So great servants for Ireland. I'm sure they're going to get a great send off from the crowd there in Dublin. But you look at the selections as well, and I think the good thing about it is none of them are done on sentiment. They're not putting players in just to give them a final couple of caps or whatever, or a bit of a send off. I genuinely believe that if they weren't the best picks for this game in their position, given the opposition, that there's no way they'd be anywhere near the matchday squad. But it is time for each of them to move on as well. So, but a decent, back row for Ireland there, going to be very, much tested against an excellent French back row as well. Then you got James Gibson Park, Sam Prendergast. Prendergast under a little bit of pressure against Wales, but also produced some magic moments there as well, and did really well with his kicking too. James Gibson Park in fantastic form too. And a lot of hate for him is his support running is so good. And I think in terms of the two nines that are facing off against each other, certainly the Northern Hemisphere of the test teams, I think they're probably the best nines in terms of supporting breaks. Getting into exactly the right position to receive that pass and potentially go on and finish off a try. Then you got James Lowe on the left wing and Jamie Osborne on the right wing. So both of them, normally you would see either one or the other in the team, because both of them are kind of pretty sure they're both left-footed. But it should be all right in terms of, like, Osborne has played all across the back line for Leinster before anyway. So obviously it's a test arena, it's a different animal. It's he might be a little bit for France to exploit, maybe some positioning not quite right, and especially when you have BL, BRE and Pinot on the wings, any kind of mistake like that will be absolutely punished. But the good thing from an Irish point of view is Lowe and Osborne both have massive boots, which means that Ireland still have that kicking game where they like to kick long, and those two players are going to be able to help them with that and help them with exits as well, so that instead of maybe a kick going out just outside your own 22, maybe getting up towards halfway or even just over halfway, and then making it a lot harder for the opposition coming back at you. So that's good. Bunyaki and Henshaw then in the midfield there. Both of them, give you something on both sides of the ball. I think, we won't have the shooter in Ringrose in terms of defence, trying to shut down those balls going wide. So that's something we've got to be careful of, because France, they've shown before, if they can get to the width against Ireland, they have the pace out there to really burn us. So that's something to worry about as well. It is no Ringrose for the defensive structure. Means that it's more likely that France are going to be able to give that ball out wide. I'm not saying that Aki and Henshaw won't shoot, just that Ringrose is kind of more used to it and more used to kind of timing it well. I think that's going to be an interesting one. Then you got Keenan back there as well, full back, solid back there. And, I think he's very underrated as well in terms of his attack. Like, he picks his moments to come and join the attack, and generally leads to line breaks or tries being scored as well. And then the impact from the bench obviously going to be very important. Rob Herring, I think, you look at that, you wouldn't say Herring is going to give you kind of, dynamism compared to Sheehan coming on, but he is going to give you stability in your set piece. And if that's something that we're needing to kind of see out the game, that could be good. Keane Healy, won't see too many minutes unless Porter is injured, I don't think. He might get the last 5 or 10 minutes, I'd say. Clarkson will probably get a little bit more. I think he's getting more comfortable at test level as well, so no issues with him coming on. James Ryan then, I think, every time we've seen him come on now, he looks like he's got a point to prove, and that's good. You want him coming on being hungry. Jack Conan has had fantastic, impact from the bench all through the tournament. He's looked better coming off the bench than he did starting against Wales as well. I think that suits him more when the game was kind of broken up a little bit. Suits his skill set, suits his instincts as well. Then Ryan Baird, kind of very similar as well. A player who likes to, make breaks, get into that, look for that space, look for the open ground, etc. But also somebody who has improved his kind of his tight game as well. Conor Murray, he generally, at least, he's going to be kind of a steady hand there. And then Jack Crowley, I think he's going to be very important when he comes on. He may not come on at 10. We'll have to see. Like, you could see him maybe he's going to come on a full back and Keenan shifts out to a wing or something like that. But whatever happens when he comes on, I think he's another player who has shown that he kind of defies his young years in terms of his ability to kind of handle pressure situations, etc. So I think decent impact from the bench from Ireland. Like, it's not as good as it was previously in the tournament, but then, you know, the reason for that was because you were having people like Dan Sheehan come on off the bench as well, and really have, you know, Dan Sheehan coming on the last 20 minutes is fantastic, but would you rather have him for 20 minutes or have him for 60 minutes? And that's the, you know, that's kind of the question, right? I think starting, you know, if he's fit, he starts. So that's our Ireland team. Now let's have a look at, you know, how France have changed their team. So first of all, Intermac is back in at 10, means Ramos goes to fullback. Pinot returns on the right wing instead of Atasogbe, who drops out of the match day 23. Then Miafu and Aradu replace Taufi, Fanua and Rouma on the bench, and France have gone for a 7-1 split. So, you know, more kind of continuity from France in terms of their selections, but, you know, France, you know, we saw last time absolutely destroyed Italy, you know, playing most of their big names. And, you know, they've got a few really good players, as we saw, come back. Entamac and Pinot coming back into your team. Like, who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want those two guys, you know, coming in and making your team even better? But again, if we look down through the, you know, through their starting 15 first. So, you know, you got Gross, Mauvaka, and Antonio there in the front row, like, all, you know, willing and very good carriers on the loose. They're gonna, you know, take some stopping, and they are gonna sap, you know, the Irish defence as well, doing that. Mauvaka is so good over the ball as well, you know, in terms of getting turnovers and winning penalties. Then, the second row, Flamand, is, you know, I love that guy in terms of his play. So he's just, such a good, you know, lock. You know, he can do it in the loose. He can do it in the tight. He can, you know, operate in the line out, etc. You know, he just gives you everything. And then, Guillard has been decent through this tournament as well. So, good second row pairing there from them. Then, you know, the back row, you got, Kroos and Aldrit, who have been there for a long time. But, you know, Baudin has come in and he's looked at home with those two as well. Like, he's performing up to their level, and that's, you know, given that their level is so high, I think it's a good compliment for him as well. So yeah, you look at the two back rows in this, and it's kind of mouth-watering, the clash between them. And the same with the halfbacks. You know, Antoine Dupont, arguably the best player in the world, certainly has to be in the conversation for it. Best 9 in the world, but the question is, you know, on Saturday, are you seeing the two best 9s in the world go head to head? You know, certainly I think the two best 9s in the Northern Hemisphere going head to head. So that's going to be interesting. But Dupont, he's not just a 9, he gives you so much more. And given that he's a French 9, he's kind of a 9.5. Like, he does some of the job of the 10. That kick that he gave, you know, for like crossfield kick for a try was just absolutely amazing. And all the tricks to support the defense, etc. We saw him, a few years ago with that tackle on Mac Hansen, where it looked like Hansen just had to fall over the line and score. Now, obviously, physics comes into it in terms of the way he positioned his body and made it, basically used the whole kind of fulcrum thing, which made it really difficult for Hansen to get the ball down. But still, he was able to do that, and Hansen has good memories and bad memories against France. Like, there was that, tackle by Dupont, but then he's also the one that scored, where he just plucks the ball out of the air from a restart and just runs over to score as well. So, but no Mac Hansen this weekend, but we do have Antoine Dupont. Yeah, and the guy's just special. And I think Ireland have to watch out for, kicks over the top from him, that are going to be in that space between the line and then the back three, because Ireland have been leaving space there, trying to kind of cover, sitting deep or trying to cover long kicks, etc. And there is space in there to be exploited. And if he's popping one over for, if Maufana or Baresi are coming through the centre, or if, Pinot, which he likes to do, is roaming off his wing looking for, some work or whatever, or a chance. If they get their hands on the ball, Ireland are going to find it very hard. They've got a good scramble, but that's going to be a hard situation to scramble your way out of, I think. So, got to watch out for that. You got to watch him, obviously, on the dart himself. And so many facets of his game, are so good. You've got to be switched on all the time. And if Ireland don't, he's going to take advantage of it. Then Ntamack coming back in at 10, another excellent player. And, given the players around, the quality players around him as well, he's going to be putting them through holes. And then also looking for, again, we talked about it from the Irish defensive point of view, he's going to be looking to give those wide balls, missed passes out to the wing and catch Ireland on the edge of the defence, because Ireland still defend very narrow and there always is space out in the tram lines. So if he can get those passes right, he could really cause Ireland a lot of problems. Then guy who's definitely going to cause Ireland a lot of problems, Louis Bielbiaoui. So top try scorer in the tournament so far with 5. I think Jack Conan is the only Irish player with more than 1 try. So yeah, this guy absolutely on fire. And then on the other wing, you got Pinot there, a guy who's always scored tries and always scored tries against Ireland, and he always does well against Ireland too. So that's something Ireland really need to kind of keep an eye on too. If France get their tails up, we know they can score 2-3 tries in a very short period of time, and a close game can suddenly become a game that's pretty much over, and Ireland are trying to dig their way out, and then somebody, possibly a Prendergast maybe, gives an intercept pass, and France are under posts, and any chance of a comeback is gone. So, that's how good this French team are. That's the scenario, that could happen at the weekend. Then centres, Moefana and Baresi, do really well as a pairing, I think. Neither of them standing out hugely, given that a lot of the attention goes to pretty much the rest of the back line, right? But these guys, I think, are up to the same standard as the others, even if they don't get as much kind of press for it. And then you have Ramo at the back there, he's going to be a reliable kicker for them. He's great under the high ball. He can come into the line. He can be a playmaker. He can make breaks. The guy is fantastic as well. And you look at the bench as well. Look at that front row bench. Marchand, Boy, Al-Daheri, no drop off from the starters, I think, when they come on. Then you have Miafu coming into the second row. You got Aradou, Jagu and Jalon Shaw coming on as well. We saw against Italy, they brought on 6 of the forward substitutions all at the same time to have that impact. I imagine they're going to do exactly the same against Ireland, have that kind of, we're coming for you bomb squad style type thing. They might even put all 7 on at the same time if they feel like it. Then you have the lone back there on the bench, Maxime Lucu. And people are thinking, well, why do you have Lucu on the bench? Because you don't really need to replace Dupont, but Dupont's not coming off in this game unless he's injured anyway. But the reason why he's there is simply because they have so many other players in that back line that can move around the back line. So they don't need to have someone who can cover a number of positions. They're putting the guy there that they think, okay, well, if we move, like we've seen it before in this tournament, move the pawn out to 10 maybe and bring Lucu on at 9, inject a little bit more more pace, a little bit more unpredictability compared to what's gone on for maybe the 65 minutes or so previous to that in the game, right? And then any kind of injury, as I said, he can come on wherever they need him to come on, right? So probably at 9 again, and then they just rejig the back line and it should be covered. Obviously, the problem they have is what happens if they have 2 backs down, but some of those forwards, you could definitely stick them on the wing. They have the pace to play on the wing as well. And you could maybe rejig things that way too. Maybe move, Pinot, let's say one of the centers went down, maybe stick Pinot into the center, and then bring, a forward on maybe Gelange or someone, stick them out on the wing, and let them cover that way. So not ideal, but it's not, I don't think it's going to be end of the world that people are thinking it's going to be if they do have to replace 2 of their backs. I think they have enough, not just in the backs on they're starting the game, but also in terms of forwards that are starting and forwards that can come off the bench, that can cover, in an emergency on the wing, etc. So I don't think and then Ireland as well. You have to remember are going for a 6-2 split because they're worried about whether they say they're not, worried about it. I think they are worried about that forward power coming off the bench for France. So they don't want to match it. They don't want to go 7-1 because they're worried that they maybe don't have as much flexibility in terms of covering, 2 backs going down, but they still feel like they need that extra forward coming off the bench for them. So interesting dynamic in terms of the bench is going to be huge say in this game because looking through all the different scenarios for this game, it's hard to see it not being a close game with 20 minutes to go, that kind of time. You feel like the last 20 minutes is when one of these teams is going to win this game, and therefore the bench is probably going to have a big part in actually winning the game for them. So, 2 fantastic teams there. Lots of kind of impact from all these players as well on this game. Now we're going to have a quick look at some stats as well. So let's first of all talk about some individual stats. So we talked about already Louis Bielbiarri is the top try scorer in the tournament so far over 5. The next French guy on the list is Tio Atasogbe, who has 3 and joined 3rd. And then next then is Anton Dupont with 2. And as I said, Jack Conan is the only Irish guy with 2, but I'm not sure about that because Ireland scored 10 tries. But when I look at the tries scored list, and it's supposed to be all of the players, it doesn't show 10 tries. It definitely doesn't show all the tries, but there's probably other Irish try scorers. Lots of Irish try scorers with 1 try each, I think, is the thing. Try assists then, top of that list is Anton Dupont with 6, Bielbiarri with 4, and then you have James Lowe with 4, and James Gibson Park with 2. Then, let's see, we've got other ones that are kind of, okay. Meters gained, Tomo Ramos in 3rd with 213, and James Lowe in 4th with just shy of 200. So, and then meters carried, James Lowe with pretty much 300, and Tomo Ramos with 288. Total passes then, Dupont in 3rd with 207, and Gibson Park joined 3rd with 207. So can't split those 2 on that one at least. Line breaks then, Lowe top of that with 8. And a lot of James Lowe's line breaks have been about he makes a line break and then you have the support there, whether it's Gibson Park or somebody else, and he pops the ball off them and they can go over and score the try, or sometimes line breaks don't lead to tries as well. Then a couple of Frenchmen after him, Atasogbe in 2nd, but Atasogbe is not playing this game, even though he is high up there on a lot of these stats. Then Bielbieri in third with 5. Offloads then, Dupont top of the list with 9. Ramos in third with 6. And Mo Fana in sixth with 4. Let's see, the highest Irish guy then is tied with him, James Lowe with 4. So James Lowe, you can see, very important player for Ireland in terms of these kind of stats. Then something that people brought up a lot, tackles missed. Sam Prendergast at the top there with 15. So he's definitely going to get targeted in this game. They're going to send the big runners down his channel, etc. The thing is, as well, though, he might be missing tackles, but they're not necessarily leading to scores, etc. So, and he is putting his body on the line. He's a young lad. He's a 10. 10s generally, unless you're Owen Farrell, pretty much, don't tackle, don't like tackling. And that kind of shown in his game, but he will improve on that as well. Now let's have a look at some team stats as well. So tries scored, France top with 21, Ireland second with 10. Obviously, that game against Italy is just completely blown out that stat in favour of France at the minute, and I can't see it change. Like, it might close up a little bit, but France are definitely going to be the top try scorers in the tournament. Like, nobody else is going to put 70 odd points on Italy. Well, you'd hope they wouldn't. We'll have to see what happens at Twickenham, I guess. But yeah, you would hope Italy kind of improve in their last 2 games. Then what else we got here? Got lots of kicking and stuff. Not too interested in that. Attacking meter, 22 meter entries. France with the most at 36. Ireland third with 28. Ireland not as clinical as we've seen them before with their 22 meter entries. That's something definitely going to have to improve on for this one. Meters carried then, France with 2,676 in first. Ireland then in fifth with 1,832. Only Italy carrying less than Ireland. Meters gained then, France with 1,714, top of the pile again by a good margin as well. Ireland bottom with 947, behind Italy on that stat as well. And then total passes, France kind of both middle of the pack, third and fourth. France 538, Ireland 510. Then offloads, France right at the top with 49, Ireland with 19, and I think if I'm right, like James Lowe, James Lowe has most of our offloads. And then line breaks, then France with 32, Ireland with just 18, and 8 of those come from James Lowe. So almost half of Ireland's line breaks are coming from James Lowe. Kicks and play then, Ireland with 93, France with 92. So very similar in that regard. But we don't have the numbers on it, unfortunately. But Ireland are definitely kicking longer than France. Now, whether you want to kick longer to that French back 3 is another story, though. So we'll see if Ireland kind of change the tactics in that regard. And then let me see what else. Let's have a look at some set piece. So lineouts 1, Ireland second with 42, and France fifth with 38. So very close in there, like just 4 separating them. And then scrum percentage. Before the last round with Ireland, before Ireland played Wales, Wales had the top scrum in terms of win percentage, but now it's France. France just kind of shading them with 88%. Ireland down on just under 71, 70.83. So definitely Ireland are going to have to improve, bring their A game and their set piece, not, get penalised early in the scrum either, because then it's going to be a long afternoon for them. But, it's kind of a lot of the stats, I think, for France, going in their direction. But part of that, obviously, is that massive win that they had against Italy. But, both these teams, I think, for a lot of the stats I'm looking at here, like total points, try scored, try assists, etc. They're the top 2 teams in the league. and obviously top two teams in the table as well. So stats probably would point towards France at the minute, but again, you've got to kind of take that with a little grain of salt, given that the Italy game kind of blew it out. But you have to also remember that Ireland were in the last round, even though France hockeyed Italy, Ireland were on paper playing against the worst team in the tournament. Now, Wales did get a bounce with Matt Jarrett coming in, etc. But still, you do have to give credit back then, I think, to France for their performance and how things went for them. But this is a tough game to call. Talked about before how France don't mind going to Dublin. I think France, for the most part, struggle at Twickenham in terms of getting over the line. We saw that in the last game. Obviously, they had no trouble 2 years ago where they put up a record score at Twickenham, but generally they struggle there. No such hang-ups, I think, about going to Dublin. They've come to Dublin so many times to spoil the party that, I don't think there's any mental side for them on that. So it means that, Ireland being at home, obviously you have to give them a bit of an edge, but the fact that France don't mind coming to Dublin kind of reduces that edge a little bit too. But, you look at the two teams as well, and you see how many good players are on both teams, and there's going to be a few different factors. We touched on most of them. Set piece is going to be crucial because, again, I think Ireland are the more likely of the two teams to struggle in the set piece. So if Ireland can get parity in set piece, that's certainly going to be a big boost to their chances of winning. Then the next one is, who can get a decent start. Because a game like this, if you get a few early scores, whether that's a try and a penalty or whatever, come the end of the game, that could be, the margin or part of the margin that you win by. So fast start, going to be important. If France can quiet down that crowd in the Aviva and get them worried, that's going to feed through to the players, and you might see extra mistakes there. And then also, Ireland don't do so well when they're chasing the game. In terms of the top teams in the world, they're probably the worst at being able to chase a game. So that's something to consider too. So if France can get the noses in front and make Ireland chase the game, they're more likely to kind of catch them on the hop and score the try or whatever that basically kills the game off. But Ireland, they have that ability, I think, to. We saw it against Wales as well. Have the ability to score just before the break and just after the break. That's kind of where Ireland is very similar to Leinster as well, where they can win a lot of games. Game is tight coming into half time. Ireland get a try just before the break. They have a little bit of a lead. Come out after the break, then they get under a try as well, and suddenly a 1-score game is now like a 2 or 3 score game. That's possibility, and France have to be aware of that. They have to kind of be absolutely switched on, because the Irish guys are very good at that, being switched on around half time, whether it's just before you go in for the break or just after coming out. They're really good at that. Things they're not good at generally, not all the time, but generally, slow start. France are very good at getting fast starts. Ireland can be switched off in the first couple of minutes. France get over for a try, certainly a possibility. And the next thing then is scoring in the last kind of 10 minutes or so, where they're chasing the game. When it's a game like where the game is won, you can see them. We saw against England where they'll take their foot off a little bit and allow a couple of scores in, and then they might get a score themselves. But when it's a tight game, it's tougher for them in that for whatever reason, in the last kind of 5 minutes or so, to get that score. Whereas I think France are certainly better at things like that. Like they'll always kind of play right to the end, and they can just score tries out of nothing from behind their own line, their own 22, whatever. So Ireland definitely going to have to be switched on. I think towards the end of the game is where the mental side of things, I think, edges back towards France for that. But something Ireland are very good at is if they're the team leading going into those kind of last 20 minutes or so, they're very good at then controlling the game to the finish. So, but they do have to still keep that scoreboard ticking over. You're not going to beat France in 50 or 60 minutes. It has to be an 80-minute performance. So, having said all that, it's still really tough to pick the winner in this one. But Ireland at home, maybe it's like, because I'm Irish, I'm going to give them a slight edge, and I think Ireland is going to win it by a score. Okay, so that's the end of that one. Let me know what you think down in the comments.